$2.2 million to feel wealthy. Is this you? Follow me and let's look into the lifestyles of the rich and famous. No, I'm just kidding. So, hey everybody, welcome back to Whiteboard Finance. This is actually Charles Schwab's Modern Wealth Survey. These surveys are really important because it helps put the finger on the pulse of what you and fellow Americans are feeling when it comes to wealth. And I think that this would actually span globally because some of these things are actually time versus material items versus money versus quality of life. And I think surveys like this are super important because it helps you understand where you and your peers are at when it comes to their thoughts about money, time, health, things like that. So what this study was is it was 1,000 adults. They completed this study. There was 200 additional Gen Zs that completed the study, but it's basically the ages of 21 to 75 years old. So if you want to look at the definitions here, you had Gen Z, which are defined as 1997 to 2001, so 21 to 25 years old. You have millennials that are 26 to 41. You have Gen X that are 42 to 57, and then you have boomers that are considered 58 to 75 years old. So if we go down here, I think the most important takeaway, or one of the most important takeaways of this study, is that Americans say you need $2.2 million to be wealthy in 2023, and Americans who feel wealthy have a much lower actual net worth. So ding, 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 there's a takeaway right there that kind of decouples the number versus the feeling of being wealthy, whether this is right or wrong. So the actual number is 2.2 million. 48% of Americans feel wealthy out of those 1,200 that responded. And then 560,000 is actually the average net worth of those who feel wealthy. So if you look at this disparity right here, the people that feel wealthy, they average $560,000 in average net worth. Again, net worth is just assets minus liabilities. The actual number is 2.2 million according to the data. So you're almost 4 times less wealthy than what the actual number is, but they still feel wealthy, which in my opinion is a good thing. It's almost like a placebo. When you take a medicine or a multivitamin, it could be a sugar pill, but you feel better. So did the thing actually work, right? So millennials are most likely to feel wealthy today, which in my opinion is pretty interesting. I'm a millennial. I was born in 1987. We went through I don't even want to name all the things when it comes to geopolitics, recessions, things like that. We've been through more crises, I think, in our short time on this earth than other generations have, in my personal opinion. But that's neither here nor there. So if we look at the feeling of wealthiness by generation, you can see that 48% feel wealthy, and it breaks down the generation, the percentage of each generation. So if you look at boomers, it's kind of surprising. They actually came in at the least amount out of this 48% that feel wealthy, and millennials actually came in 17% higher at 57%. And I think it's interesting that Gen Z can even feel wealthy at this age. I know I didn't feel wealthy at, I believe it was 21 to 25 years old, according to this survey. And then Gen X is actually the smallest number, which is pretty interesting. And again, average net worth of each of those who feel wealthy is $560,000. If you look at the actual average net worth of the people that responded, boomers should be the highest because obviously they're the oldest. They've had the longest time to accumulate wealth. And then actually millennials are the second highest, which is interesting. Gen X, I don't know why this is. Maybe they're paying for their kids' college. Maybe, I don't know what this number could be, why it's so low. And then Gen Z is actually coming in at $414,000 average net worth. So I don't know. I don't know how that's even possible at that age when you consider student loans, getting your first big boy, big girl job at 21, 22. So I'm not exactly sure who they surveyed for this. So unless I'm misinterpreting this data, this number should be closer to probably 0 in my opinion. So maybe I'll need to revisit that when I edit this video. And just to clarify, if you look at this footnote right here, it's asking, what are your total assets, including retirement funds held by employers, such as 401k, 403b, but not including any real estate? So I have no idea how these numbers are this high. I know I didn't have $414,000 of net worth at 21, but we'll move forward. So when describing wealth in their own words, more Americans reference well-being over money and assets. So this is kind of the shift that's happening when it comes to, time, experience, health, things like that. As opposed to, quote unquote, material items. So if you look at the definition of wealth, 40% said well-being, 32% said money, 26% said assets, 25% said necessities. So as long as their necessities are covered, they feel wealthy. 15% said freedom. 13% said achievements or goals. 11% said luxury, and 9% said giving. I think giving is important. I don't know if that's your definition of wealth. I think you're a great person. But I think as long as it's kind of like the oxygen mask on the plane. If you're covered, you put your oxygen mask on first, you then have the ability to help others. So if your well-being is good, then you can move on to other people. That's just my personal opinion. I think time and health are the most important assets out there. And then you can give, to friends, family, charities, things like that. So everyone's definition of wealth is different. So this one is actually pretty interesting. So Americans generally choose non-financial assets when asked to choose which better describes wealth. So I'm going to take some time on this slide because I think it's important. So if you look at these two arrows, you have on the left-hand side non-monetary, and on the right-hand side, it's monetary. So if you have the two diatribes of having a fulfilling personal life versus, working on your career, 72% of people, 72 out of 100 or 720 out of 1,000, they chose having a fulfilling personal life over the career. Not having stress over money, 70 to 30, the 30% being having more money than most people I know. What does that get you, dude? If you have more money than most people you know, yes, you can probably help more people, but I think it boils down to your personality type. Some people, I would hate to see them with more money. I don't know how that would change them as individuals, but I don't know if any of you had any friends or family that all of a sudden came into money. Answer down in the comments below, did that change them for better or worse? It could definitely change people for the worse, not just the better. So enjoying experiences, 70%, owning many nice things, 30%. So again, that experiences to material items shift is happening. Having a healthy work-life balance, 69%, to maximizing my earnings, even if it impacts my work-life balance, 30%. This is a big one for me. I've worked in W-2. I worked in essentially commercial real estate lending, development, investment banking, essentially commercial mortgage-backed securities. I had no life during that time, and I put in my 2 weeks almost immediately. I worked there only a few months, just because that's not my vision of a healthy life. So I think work-life balance, for me, my mantra is golden middle, everything in the middle, everything in moderation. But some people are wired differently. Some people, choose to take Adderall, go to work, not eat for 12 hours, and crank out some numbers to make more money. Other people choose to be more well-balanced, and there's no right or wrong. So being generous with loved ones now, 67%, leaving an inheritance, 33%. I think this is an interesting one. It's kind of like almost like immediate helping versus like, hey, let's plant the seeds. Let's let this tree of wealth build. I think that one's pretty important. So this one I'm just kind of 50-50 on. I have no opinion on this one. Paying for experiences to spend time with my family now, 64%. Leaving an inheritance for my family, 36%. I think this one is a balance, and I think I skew more towards non-monetary, just because the only people that are going to remember that you worked late at night are your kids, okay? Not your boss, not your colleagues. No one cares about you. If you pass away tomorrow, maybe they'll have a little memorial party for you at work. 2 weeks later, there's going to be someone else that replaces you. So the only people that remember when you work late are your children and your family members. So remember that. Being in good health, 63%. Being successful, 37%. I think the people that answer 37%, they don't even realize that you can have all the money in the world, and if you show me the richest person in the world, they'll pay any dollar amount to have their health back if they are sick or terminally ill. So I think these people kind of lose the plot, this 37% here. If you have all the money in the world, it doesn't matter if you're not healthy and if you can't enjoy it. So health and time are your most important assets again. Enjoying healthy relationships with family versus loved ones, 62%. Having a lot of money, 38%. Having a lot of money can buy you time and healthy relationships with your loved ones. But as famous rapper Biggie Smalls says, more money, more problems. And it just comes in different versions. So there's nothing wrong with having money. I just think it just depends on how you manage it. And then also if it enables you to cherish these relationships and memories and things with loved ones as well. Having the flexibility of working where and how I want to. So basically in-person, hybrid, or remote. A lot of my friends are working remotely. I'll get back to that in a second. Or having a higher salary, being in the office. So in my opinion, you can, let's say, for example, I'll give you a real life example. One of my best friends, he works for a big tech company in Austin. He's originally from Cleveland. He's been to Portugal, Barcelona, the Balkans, Croatia, Montenegro, Serbia, whatever. He's living life. He's all over the place. He's in Italy. He's doing all these things. That's because he earns a Western tech salary, but he's living in areas where it costs $1,000 a month to live, $2,000 a month to live max, right? So I always talk about geo arbitrage. If you don't follow me on Twitter, follow me at WhiteBoard Fin, Fin. This is what my grandparents did. They earned a salary. They worked in the United States for 30 years. They got their retirement/pension, if you will, and they moved back to the Balkans. They moved back to Western Serbia, ski resort town, ridiculously high quality of living and life, and you can live there for $750 a month, right? Better food, better time, better everything. So geo arbitrage is a viable option, which is now becoming more and more popular, and you can do that with remote work. So I'd rather have remote work, maybe get paid a little bit less, and then not have to be tied to a desk, a commute, traffic, all that stuff. And then spending money now versus having more experiences, spending money now to have more experiences, 55%, sacrifice experiences now in order to save money for later, 45%. This one, I'm, again, golden middle. You have to, don't take ridiculous vacations to the Maldives, for $15,000, $20,000, but at the same time, don't deprive yourself of going to sporting events, traveling, things like that. You can do a lot of traveling for relatively cheap, especially while you're young. The older you get, obviously, the more expensive travel gets, especially if you have a spouse, kids, you want to stay in nicer places, things like that. But when you're young, you can do hostels, you can do couch surfing, you can do a bunch of different things and still get those same life experiences. So I'm definitely more on the non-monetary side on this one. So the next slide we're going to get into is pretty interesting, and the rest of this presentation is pretty interesting. But before that, let's get into today's sponsor, Policy Genius. If you have a family, you know how much your loved ones depend on you. In a worst-case scenario, you wouldn't want them to worry about money. A good life insurance plan can give you peace of mind that if something happens to you, your family will have a safety net to cover mortgage payments, college costs, or other expenses so they can get back on their feet and focus what's on most important. Life insurance through your workplace may not be enough protection for your family's needs, and it won't follow you if you leave your job. Let me tell you from personal experience, it is super satisfying to check life insurance off your to-do list, just like my wife and I were able to do with Policy Genius. Policy Genius was built to modernize the life insurance industry. Their technology makes it easy to compare life insurance quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $25 per month for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer coverage in as little as a week and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Their licensed agents work for you, not the insurance companies. That means they don't have an incentive to recommend one insurer over another, so you can trust their guidance. Policy Genius is for parents, caregivers, and anyone else who has people who depend on them. They simplify the process of getting life insurance so you can protect the people you love. There are no added fees, and your personal details are private. No wonder they have thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot. Your loved ones deserve a financial safety net. You deserve a smarter way to find and buy it. Head to policygenius.com/whiteboardfinance or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you can save. Okay, thank you for sitting through that. It helps pay for the production costs of this channel. So Americans feel that having time is more important than having money, and I think the breakdown is pretty logical here. If you look at the 61% that said having time is more important than money, if you look at the boomers, they're obviously going to be the highest percentage of this response. The reason for that is when you get older, obviously you cherish time more. When you're younger or like starting to get into the grind of making money, so in this case, it's the millennials, people that are now getting promotions, moving up in the workplace, they're in their money accumulation phase. Obviously, they're going to say, I'd rather have money than time. And then also having money, they were the highest respondents out of all these. So about a third of Americans have a documented financial plan, and those who have one feel more in control of their finances. Oh, you don't say. So if you're actually taking the time to create a plan and get organized, you feel more in control of your finances, obviously. So the scary thing is that this is basically saying out of these 1,000 people, 650 of them have no formal financial plan. So 40% of them said, I thought about it a little bit, but I never created a formal plan. A quarter of them don't have a financial plan of any kind. So out of these 2/3, 1/4 of that 2/3 says, I don't have a plan of any kind. So the 35% that do, 92% of them feel confident that they're going to reach their financial goals, which I think is important. What gets measured gets managed. Okay, what gets tracked gets measured, and you're able to quantify those things and able to make adjustments, right? So it's just like having a budget. It's just like understanding how much money you have coming in versus how much money you have going out. This is basic financial planning 101. Creating a portfolio, I've made a bunch of videos about this on my channel. It's not that complicated. And worst case scenario, or not worst case, but you can always get a financial advisor and pay 1%. And they'll talk you off the cliff when times are hard, and they'll also manage your money and do a lot of stuff that you could probably do on your own. However, it's less impulsive if you have someone else managing your money. You don't have to do that, but for the cost of peace of mind, I think 1% is fair. So not having enough money and perceived complication of financial plans are the biggest barriers to having a financial plan. So obviously that makes sense. That's very logical. Hey, I don't have any money, so why would I need a plan to begin with? But the interesting thing about this is that, yes, it's 44% of respondents. That's the barriers to financial planning, 440 people. 52% of those are boomers, okay? So I think that's pretty interesting. Unless I'm misinterpreting this data, how can 52% of the oldest, wealthiest, most time to accumulate assets, compound interest, all that good stuff that we teach here on this channel, how can these people not have enough money to have a plan, right? And then also Gen X, they're the second oldest. You would think that they're in their 40s and 50s. They're in the senior management positions. They're in the positions that have been promoted. They have seniority, yada, yada, yada. 48% of them answered that. So I think that was pretty interesting. Some people say it seems too complicated to create a plan. It really isn't, you guys. There's a ton of information on my channel, on other channels on YouTube. And again, you can always go the financial advisor route. There's nothing wrong with that. So I think this is kind of just, an excuse, if you will. So basically 1/5 of the respondents said that. The other 1/5 said they don't have enough time to develop one. And this makes sense. If you look at boomers, they have all the time in the world, especially if they're retired. 9% of them said that. The younger demographics were the highest, which makes sense. 18% haven't had a major life event that meant requiring a plan. This could make sense. Obviously, if you don't have, dependents or kids or, God forbid, the death of a parent or, grandparent, that could make sense. Maybe you don't have a windfall. I don't know. But for me, I didn't look at term life insurance until I had a kid, right? When I had that, that's when I got that. That was in my, late 20s, early 30s, right? So, early 30s. My daughter's going to be 2. What am I talking about? So at 33, that's when I got term life insurance. I didn't need it up until that point. I didn't have any dependents. Didn't make sense. And then probably too expensive to get help creating a plan. I could see that being the perception, but it's not the reality for the most part. So Americans value their relationships with family and friends, but how they compare to family and friends impacts how wealthy they feel. Again, remember, guys, comparison is the thief of joy. If you keep comparing yourself to others and how other people are doing, you're never going to be happy. So just get that out of your mind right now. In my opinion, maybe that motivates some people, but I think that just leads to a never-ending hamster wheel of comparison. Could be social media, could be the neighbors next door, could be the Joneses next door. Comparison is the thief of joy. So out of these people that value this, so say, for example, being able to afford a similar lifestyle as my friends makes me feel wealthy, that makes sense. Hey, if you're similar to your peers, there's a phrase that my mom always taught me is, who you hang out with is who you are. You are the average of the 5 people you hang out with. If you hang out with 5 losers, you're probably going to be a loser. If you hang out with 5 people that, enjoy horticulture, you're probably going to, plant some seeds, things like that. If you're with gamers, you're going to be a gamer, et cetera, et cetera. And that seems to be true. On my 35 years on this planet, you really are the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. So this makes sense. Basically half the people said that, hey, if I can afford a similar lifestyle as my friends, I feel wealthy. I feel okay. The most, which makes sense, is Gen Z and millennials. These are the 2 youngest. As you get older, you kind of don't care. You're a boomer. You're like, I don't care, how Mike or Joe or Steve or Carolyn or whatever is doing. I'm old. I don't compare myself to others. That's natural. That happens with age. The 37% said, I compare my lifestyle to my families and friends on social media. I think that this is BS, and I think that boomers and maybe Gen X are keeping this number down. I think of the people that use social media, I think some people say they don't, but I think it's subconscious. Oh, they had their destination wedding in the Maldives. They went to Grand Cayman Islands. They bought a new car. They got the new this. They got the new that. Their house is 3,600 square feet as opposed to 2,800 square feet. I think this is BS. I think this number, whether it's subconscious or conscious or not, I think that most people get influenced by what they see on social media, whether it's conscious or not. So, which makes sense. Gen Z is the highest at 54%. Boomers are the lowest at 13%. Millennials are somewhere in the middle. Same thing with Gen X. I think a lot more people get influenced by social media than they realize. Americans use social media to see how others around them are doing, but also use it for financial advice. Where's my... Bruh. Yeah, there's a good one. Where's the... Yeah, the alarm. So this is pretty interesting. I'm going to take some time on this slide because obviously this is what I do for a living. Social media impact. I follow influencers who share financial advice on social media. 43%. Okay, out of everyone, 43%. Obviously this makes sense. Boomers the lowest. Gen Z and Millennials the highest. Gen X in the middle. I find that my views of wealth are influenced by what people post on social media. 38%. I think this is correct, especially if you look at the demographic breakdowns. Boomers obviously the lowest at 9%, Gen Z and Millennials the highest at 53 and 51. I make purchases based on what I see my friends and other influencers share on social media, 34%. I think this is probably a little bit higher. Again, this goes back to my social media paradox. I think whether it's subconscious or conscious, you see certain people wearing certain things, using certain things, talking about certain things. I definitely think it's higher than 1/3 of people. And obviously these numbers make sense. Gen Z is the highest. Millennials are the second highest. I make my investment decisions based on what I see my friends and other influencers share on social media. 33%. Again, it's probably higher whether you realize it or not. I make financial decisions based on what I see my friends and other influencers share on social media. Same thing. I think it's higher whether you think it is or not. And I like to share my financial success on social media. This one, dude, if I didn't do this for a living, I wouldn't tell anybody my dividend portfolio, my Roth IRA, how much Bitcoin I'm buying or not buying, all that stuff. I wouldn't be telling you about any of this stuff. It's no one's business unless you want to talk to a close friend and ask for their guidance or what they're doing, or a financial advisor. I wouldn't share any of this stuff on social media. I think that's a new phenomenon. I make a living from it. If I didn't have this channel, I probably wouldn't even have social media, to be quite honest. I think it's way too much stimulation. I think the dopamine receptors are fried. I think it's creating false perceptions of what a healthy life is. Because no one's going to post negative stuff on social media. I got into an argument with my wife today. I did this, I got that. I lost all my money buying, Pepe coin. Like, no one's going to post that, right? So it just becomes a positive highlight reel and an unobtainable lifestyle if you think that's what life is supposed to be like every day, okay? Which is not. Life is ups and downs. So let's see, a demographic snapshot of who responded to this. 46% were male, 53% female. Investable assets, the average is $361,000. Median is $75,000. Generations, Gen Z, 13%. Millennials, 34%. Gen X, 28%. Boomers, 25%. So reasonably even. Household income, average $93,000. Median, $68,000. That's pretty close to what a regular suburb in, the Midwest would be, for example. 68,000 median household in like a Class A suburb in, let's say, Ohio. I don't know. So employment, working full-time, 53%. So half the people work full-time, 12% work part-time, 18% are retired, 17% are other. So I'm not sure what that other is, but that's what it is. So there we are with the study. I know this video is probably going to be a little bit on the longer side, but I think it's important to talk about material or non-monetary versus monetary things. Again, my messaging forever, for pretty much as long as I've been alive, is somewhere in the middle. The golden middle is how I choose to live my life. Do I deprive myself of travel? No. Do I stay at 17-star hotels in the Maldives with a swim-out cabana with a personal butler? No. Somewhere in the middle, right? I've traveled to a bunch of countries, probably, 30 at this point. Been everywhere, done everything, but you do it reasonably, right? You do it reasonably. Whether traveling's your thing or not, I think it's a part of being a well-rounded human being and understanding multiple perspectives around the world. If your thing is cars, if you're a car guy, don't drive the beater and be proud of it. I think that's kind of cringy. But also, unless you can afford, if you can't afford it, that's fine. But, you don't also need the $300,000 supercar unless it's a fraction of your net worth. So everything in the middle, just, have a safe, reliable, normal car. These are just examples, right? And I'm probably rambling at this point, but everything also, I noticed in the United States, everything's so extreme. Extreme poverty, extreme wealth, extreme materialism, extreme frugality, extreme this, extreme that. Like, just be normal, be somewhere in the middle, right? You don't have to deprive yourself of the $3 coffee, because 743 years from now at a, 7% compound interest rate, it's going to be worth $3 million, right? It's like, dude, just have the coffee, okay? Relax, have a coffee with a friend, So I'm definitely rambling at this point, but my point is you don't have to live your life in extremes in order to enjoy life. But what I do prioritize and what I do enjoy seeing in this survey, at least it echoes what I believe about life, is family, friends, time, health. These are your most important assets. No one's going to be on their deathbed, taking their last breaths on, the ventilator and saying, "Oh, I wish I worked 55 hours a week instead of 40. Oh, I wish I didn't see my kids more. I wish I didn't travel more." No one's going to say that. It always comes down to experiences. Wish I had more time with my family. Wish I didn't work so hard. You can look this up. So I'm going to end it there. Check out the link down below. WhiteBoard Finance University is about to be live here in early August. Have a ton of great content already uploaded in there. We're just going to do a little sales pitch, get some hype behind it, and then make it live. So if you haven't signed up for the waiting list, you can do so down below. Thank you so much, and have a prosperous day. Oh, I just want to say that I wish I made more coffee at home. Oh.